So many call it the fourth estate, like a fourth branch of government, if you will, where the people keep the politicians in check. But now a man who held one of the most esteemed positions in broadcast journalism is disgraced. NBC News anchor Brian Williams told the world on his evening newscast, in fact, he told the story many times, that his helicopter that he was traveling in Iraq 12 years ago was shot down by a rocket-propelled grenade. He even said he looked down the barrel of a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. How could anyone get that wrong? It's perplexing, of course. The man is supposed to ferret out the truth for a living. Instead, he looks like a liar. His station, which pays him a reported $10 million a year, suspended him for 6 months without pay as punishment. Take a look.
In a consumer marketplace, it's all about brands. Companies with something to sell strive for two things: brand recognition and a favorable response to that brand. This holds true for cars, toothpaste, soda pop, professional athletes, politicians, actors, celebrities, and even news anchors. Q-scores are one method used to determine the recognition and favorability of a person or product. The higher the Q-score, the more that person or product is worth. Scandals surrounding high-profile personalities have marked the end of careers, but in some cases, the brand is able to bounce back, to some extent, after some time away from the public eye. Some names on that list might include Martha Stewart, Dan Rather, President Clinton, and Rob Lowe. The latest addition is Brian Williams.
I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft.
A key difference is Williams tarnished the core of his brand, credibility, where others were engaged in scandals outside, in marketing terms, the meaning of their brand. Right now, we can't really make a call on whether Brian Williams will fade away or if second chances applies. And why do some brands get a second chance and others, such as former Senator John Edwards and New Coke, do not?
In fact, that's all I have to say.
We are back live on set here at Fresh Outlook. I am joined by the Ebru think tank, Paul Levinson, a professor of media at Fordham University, Barna Donovan, a professor of media at St. Peter's University. Joining us via Skype is former NBC executive Tom Madden, and I'm also joined on set by Dr. Rossi. Let's go to Tom Madden first, joining us via Skype. Since you know the culture at NBC, I presume you know Brian Williams. I know Brian Williams, wonderful man, nice guy, but in my book, a liar. What's your take?
Well, first of all, I would have dropped that misremembering phrase, that stemmed from the Roger Clemens testimony at a congressional hearing. I don't know whether you remember that, but the HGH was in question, and he was talking about his trainer misremembering. I mean, such a euphemism for lying. It's the worst kind of word. And it's so unfortunate because Brian is such a talented guy. He was really, knocking him dead on the network. I mean, he was well-liked, well-appreciated. Now, you mentioned at the beginning, a favorable rating and so forth, and the brand needs that kind of respect and appreciation. But it's different in the news division. It's a question of credibility. Nowhere is credibility more important than in delivering the news. You can almost imagine the first few words, implicit in front of every report is, take my word for this. And then you go on and give her a report. So that take my word for this, once it's blurred, the whole message is destroyed. I don't think Brian is going to be able to come back from this. And again, I lament it because he's so talented. He's got such charisma. He's a deliver. He's a great on-air personality.
Tom, I'm going to hold you there. I'm going to hold you there for just a second. We'll rejoin you in just a second. All good points. I'm going to turn to my on-set panel. Paul, as a journalist, I'm so angry about this story. I mean, that's what we do. We tell the truth. I even attribute things when I'm talking to my kids. Well, mother tells me this, sister tells me that. We don't lie.
That's true, but I'm not quite as draconian as you or Mr. Madden, and here's why. I think we have to look at the nature of the lie. So if you think about someone like Jason Blair at the New York Times, he made up stories out of whole cloth, he fabricated sources, he plagiarized. That's about the worst that a journalist could do.
Absolutely.
Or even Dan Rather at CBS, it's still not clear what happened there, but there was a report about a president and a presidential candidate, the same person, George W. Bush, doing something unorthodox to get out of going into
But
the
also,
Army.
that was never proven that Dan Rather
It
lied.
was not proven, but it was a very serious reporting issue. In the case of Brian Williams, this is not really a news report. It is a personal recollection, and obviously he shouldn't have lied. There's no doubt about that. But I don't see it as such an ipso facto horrendous action. And because of that, were I in charge, were I God, I would give him a second chance.
I'll tell you, Dr. Rossi, I was watching this report when he reported on it most recently, and I said to myself, wow, this guy has really earned his stripes. I was so impressed with Brian Williams that he went to Iraq, covered a war, was shot down, and then at Madison Square Garden was honoring one of the men he said rescued him. Is this an antisocial behavior that we're seeing? Is this a man who has feathered his nest through lies and other culpable actions throughout his career in order to get ahead, in order to get to that mantle that he now holds?
Well, psychologists will say that we all have a tendency or a trait to enhance ourselves or make us look as good as we possibly can. That's actually a fairly good trait in many respects. However, when we go down this road and we exaggerate and we lie, we're going out of bounds here. And what I say is that it's indicative of someone who does not have a winning personality any longer. And I hear what Paul's saying, but I disagree, because I think he can't come back. This lack of consistency, the fact that he's lied, it shows that he does not have a winning personality to be on TV anymore in a situation where you must tell the truth. And I see him having a very hard road coming back to project a personality that's going to be a winner in this circumstance.
Barna, what's your take?
I agree that he probably won't be able to make a comeback as well. And Paul, I slightly disagree with you that I'm not sure I would give him much of a chance either, because it's not just this one incident, that now we're finding out that many other things he said are being questioned about his recollections of Hurricane Katrina, and flying to Baghdad with SEAL Team 6 and getting souvenirs from them. That it's just one after the other, that it shatters.
Even as a very young man, they said he claimed he was stuck up at gunpoint in Red Bank, New Jersey, and people who are around in the time say that's ludicrous. Let me turn to Tom for a little bit. Tom, we've been talking a little bit about the situation with Dan Rather. Dan Rather, as far as I know, was canned by CBS after voicing over a report that was prepared for him by a producer, which I find much less egregious than this. When you get the facts wrong that were relayed to you by somebody else, I can understand why sometimes there might be confusion, why you might conflate the issues, why you might misremember. But if you were shot down in a helicopter, I think you would certainly remember.
Or if you saw bodies floating along the French Quarter and so forth. You know, there's a multitude of these misrememberings that are popping up, and it's just a multitude of them. It's like climbing a mountain to get over them. But I think what everyone is not recognizing is the intimacy that the audience has with the anchor of a news program. He is so much the heart and soul of that news report. And the public has a very close relationship here. When that is, defiled, when the viewer is realizes that this person that they've respected so much is not a truthful person, that's it. There needs to be another format for Brian. And I think Brian has a career after this.
Yeah, I think he's going to have the next Maury Povich type show, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Paul, you're chomping at the bit. I'll let you talk.
Thanks. There's something else that disturbs me about this whole situation. There is something in the public in which we now live in which people seem to take a special, almost glee in tearing down our icons.
Absolutely.
And I don't like that aspect of this. There was a folk singer by the name of Phil Oakes in the 1960s. He wrote a song called The Crucifixion, and he made this very point, that we build people up. So everyone loves Brian Williams. And part of that process is as soon as they make a mistake, as soon as they trip up, everyone is on the bandwagon. Get rid of this person, he's the worst person. I don't know how many of these other charges are true. I mean, as far as I know, the only outright lie was about his helicopter taking fire. It is true that NBC is investigating his report from Hurricane Katrina, and there are other issues as well. But frankly, until it's shown that he's lying about that, I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt.
You make an interesting point. Donald Trump, for example, in the 1980s was heralded as a great savior of New York City. He could restore Woolman Rink in a matter of weeks when the city couldn't do it in a matter of years. They built him up and then knocked him down, and all of a sudden he's a tyrant and a man with a comb over, and people hate him. Brian Williams, I do feel, is different. And here's why. I felt he was the successor to Edward R. Murrow and Dan Rather and Peter Jennings. He was the one voice of reason and credibility that remained. Fox News Channel is comment and opinion. MSNBC is comment and opinion. Right. We have so few credible news sources nowadays that it's disheartening to a journalist. Barna, you're a journalist, you teach journalism. Do you agree with me that the public now seems to want opinion rather than fact? They want to watch a news station that they agree with rather than one that challenges them. And somebody like Brian Williams was a guy who was supposed to play it down the middle.
Right, exactly. That our worst instincts seem to be that I want my bias confirmed. You know, don't challenge me if I'm very conservative. Give me my Fox News. If I'm very liberal, give me my my MSNBC. And then we want that confirmed, that worst instinct. But when somebody seems to be giving us old-fashioned, straight, objective journalism, we want to respect that. It is respectable. You know, so when we see somebody like this stumble because of his own behavior, it discourages audiences, and I think it also gives a black eye essentially to the field. I'm concerned with that too, and how many people who don't like journalists generally are now going to have just another reason not to like them.
And Dr. Rossi, how does he turn to Hillary Clinton and question her about dodging sniper fire when she clearly lied about that as well? When you put yourself in that position where you're a liar and you're in a job where you're supposed to call out people on their lies, it's very problematic.
It is very problematic. And I liked your point before about MSNBC, Fox. Hillary Clinton is a politician. Ronald Reagan said that he actually photographed the concentration camps, but then later backtracked because he never left the United States.
Right.
So we have lies or fabrications.
But we expect politicians to lie.
Yes, and we expect Hannity to say something that might be extreme on Fox.
Exactly.
And I don't necessarily defend him, but okay, he has the right to do that. But not Brian Williams. Brian Williams has to say just the way it is, down the middle. And I think he's going to have a hard time coming back because of the circumstances of his position. It's different than MSNBC. It's different than any place else. And I like Paul's point about people taking it out on an anchor or somebody, this pleasure that they get. There's a German word, Schadenfreude. It's where you get pleasure from someone else's misstep or misery. That's true. However, all of that may be a factor, but the truth is he lied and he is in a situation where it's not tolerated.
Let me just turn to Tom for a second. Tom, do you think that Brian Williams can come back and be the anchor of NBC Nightly News after this disgraceful moment in his career?
No, I don't think so. I think he's blown it. I don't think you get a second chance, not at the level that he was and how far he's fallen. So he's going to have to come back in a different format. I see him maybe with his own talk show. Maybe it's a late night show. It's an interview program. He's very, talented. He certainly belongs on air. But to deliver the nightly news, I don't think so. And by the way, I think we give too many benefits of the doubt. I don't understand what was going on in the news department when these exaggerations started multiplying.
All right, Tom Madden, former executive of NBC.
Here?
Thank you for joining us, sir. To all of our think tank, we're going to be back and fielding more questions in a little bit. Although this does pop in my head, if he does a paternity test, sort of like Maury does in every show, will anybody believe the results? I don't know. When we return from our hearts to yours,